And without further ado, you can go ahead and take it away, Georgina.
Oh, thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I'm so excited. I should say good morning from Sydney and good evening wherever you are in the world. So if you're either having your dinner, your breakfast, or fast asleep and catching this recording, all good. I'm just really excited to connect with everyone. So I'll just share my screen and get underway. All righty. So thank you for joining me today. I'll be talking about the Asteroid series and how she's all about nurturance and transformation in our lives. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll talk all about them in the end. Firstly, I would like to begin by doing an acknowledgement of country. I begin by acknowledging and paying my respects to the Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, in particular the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, which is known as Sydney, Australia in modern times, as the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting and coming to you live from. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I also pay my respects to all of our ancestors, mine and yours, of all meeting participants, whether you're joining us live or during the recording, across all the lands on the planet. And it's very fitting to acknowledge our ancestors because we're really talking about the goddesses, which are, well, mine from Greek heritage that we'll be talking about today, but all of our ancestors are still with us. See, going back in time, the goddesses were quite prominent, the divine feminine, and it wasn't until the advent of the patriarchy and organized religion, which is, we're going off a different topic there, where the goddesses were suppressed. That power was suppressed, but they're still there waiting for the right time to emerge again. And that was when the asteroids, the four major asteroids, Ceres, Pallas Athena, Vesta and Juno, were discovered between 1801 and 1807. Up until that time, the moon was denoted as the mother and Venus as the mate in astrology, and still is very much so. But when they were discovered, they were always there in the asteroid belt, but it was just, they were just bubbling up slowly, and the goddesses were bubbling up slowly, going, okay, our time is coming. In the 19th century, soon after the asteroids were discovered, two ladies, Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, were born, and they became very prominent in increasing women's participation in society. So just as the goddesses were waiting, these ladies started the first steps that brought an exponential growth in the 1970s, when Eleanor Bach published the first asteroid ephemeris. It was a time when women were rediscovering their feminine creativity beyond the traditional roles. We're not just incubators and cooks at home. We can contribute so much to society. And then women started entering science, politics, education, to name a few. And it was also the time when we had the revival of the goddess in women's spirituality. So just as the planets take on the aspects of human themes when they're discovered, like as we can see from when Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto were discovered, so did the asteroids. Their location in the solar system is between the personal planets and linking to the social and generational planets. And they've become the agents and symbolic keys of transformation in our lives. By understanding where the asteroids are in our chart, we can understand our archetypal feminine principle independent of who we identify as. They're with us, they're in us, and we can identify that in merging into the mass consciousness. By that I mean is by understanding from our personal ego the lessons we have to learn, especially with the transits, going on into the collective, understanding the collective, which I'll go more into about what Ceres can teach us in our lives. Because when we understand our goddesses, it's like a rite of initiation that we go through, where we unlock the doors to universal understanding. We understand why we are here, why we are incarnated. So to understand Ceres, we've got to go back in time when the goddesses were prominent, and we're going to go back to my roots in ancient Greece and many millions of our roots. Ceres, known as Demeter or Demeter, means Earth Mother. She was the goddess of agriculture and harvest, and her family ruled ancient Greece. Her name Ceres comes from Roman mythology, and I'll be interchanging between the two as we go along, but we'll focus on her name as Ceres. But Demeter came to live, she was one of the few goddesses that lived in the heavens and on earth. She was worshipped as an all-nourishing mother, giving the gift of agriculture to humanity, grain, and the Eleusinian rites, which ran for 2,000 years. She is often depicted with a corn ear and a wheat wreath, and will either hold grain or poppies in one hand and a lighted torch in the other. Now, to understand Ceres, we have to understand her family and their role in her life. So I'm going to talk a little bit about her daughter and her son-in-law coming up. Now, Ceres or Demeter was really well known for quite a few myths, but this is the prominent one that pretty much shaped her. Her daughter Persephone was the goddess of spring growth. And the story goes that Demeter and Persephone roamed the earth, smelling the flowers, very much, I don't know, like Snow White, You got the little birds on their shoulders and everything was happy. And when they were happy, the earth was happy. We had perpetual harvest, there was no winter, and there was no deprivation. One day, Persephone went off to smell some flowers, and the earth opened. Hades rode up on a chariot of 4 horses, grabbed her, dragged her down into the underworld, and the earth closed. Ceres looked around going, my daughter was just there a second ago. Where did she go? She couldn't find her anywhere. She roamed the earth for days and nights. She asked Diana to find her, look everywhere. They couldn't find her anywhere. And instead of embracing her goddess power, she just put the shrouds on and hid away because she disapproved of what had happened. She couldn't find her daughter. No one was helping. I'm going to talk a little bit about Hades now, which is Pluto. Now, while this was going on, it wasn't until one day the sun god Helios told Demeter, oh, yeah, your daughter's down in the underworld with Hades. She's really, happy because he could see everything where he was from his position. And Ceres was like, why didn't you tell me earlier? She's like, I thought you knew. Oh, Zeus approved the adoption and everything. She's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Ceres was absolutely livid. Still, she shrouded away in disapproval. And there was a perpetual, not a harvest, but a deprivation. People started dying. There was no food anywhere. Zeus could not stand this. He was like, there are no people there to worship me. Something has got to be done about this. So Zeus commanded Hermes, Mercury, to the underworld to convince Pluto to return Persephone. Now, before I go on, I put there kidnapped with a question mark. Hades kidnapped Persephone because there's another story that exists. And, in stories being depicted in art, as we can see with this painting of the abduction of Persephone by Scarsellino, everyone's grabbing Persephone as Pluto is trying to grab her into the underworld, going, no, don't go to the underworld. And Persephone is like, oh, yeah, you're right, no. But she's looking back at him going, oh, he's not bad looking. I might actually follow him. She's making a choice. The other myth is, now I'm just putting my spin on it there, but the other story is that Demeter and Persephone roamed the earth, everything was really happy, but Persephone's father is Charos, the angel of death, as we know that name in Greek. She could see souls of the dead roaming aimlessly. And she thought, well, why are all these souls here? Someone needs to direct them. There was no one to direct them. And she volunteered to take these souls into the underworld to go to help them through the process of being reborn again. So there's that other thing we've got to consider. Was she really kidnapped, or did she have a choice? And that follows us into our astrological interpretation, which I'll revisit. So let's get back to the story. Hermes has gone down into the underworld, said, mate, you've got to return. Demeter's daughter, everyone's dying up there. Persephone is sitting down there as the queen of the underworld, looking up, going, oh, my poor mother, what's going on? I really need to get back to her. And Pluto's like, oh, all right, if you insist. Before you go, here, have some pomegranate seeds. Now, Persephone knows not to eat anything that Hades gives her because her mother told her, but she was really, really, really hungry. And Hades said, look, I don't want her to think that I haven't taken care of you. Here, have some pomegranate seeds. So she ate some. Unbeknownst to her, pomegranate seeds are a symbol of sexual consummation. So she was married after eating those. So up she went, even though Pluto knew all about this, no one else knew about this. She was reunited with her mother in Eleusis, which is modern day Elefsina, which is about 14 k's outside of Athens to the west. And while they were reunited, Ceres asked her daughter, did you eat anything? She goes, oh, you know, the pomegranate seeds. Oh, no. Why did she tell her? She shrouded away. Still, we had the deprivation going on. Still, you know, it got to the point where Zeus had to step in, Rhea had to step in, and they all came to the agreement that for every pomegranate seed eaten by Persephone, she would spend a month with Pluto in the underworld and the remaining of the year with her mother. She ate 6 seeds. So that's our autumn and winter there. So this is how the ancients explained the change of the seasons. But that's my long way around of, you know, talking about this myth in moving into what this means for us astrologically and symbolically. So because of Hades or Pluto intervening, he transformed everyone in this story. He even transformed himself. For Ceres, being the goddess of harvest and the eternal mother, she also came to symbolize the continuity of life. Transforming, she got transformed into a grandmother. She transforms the earth. Her daughter Persephone, goddess of spring growth, symbolizes the potential of things to come, and in our charts where we're innocent and yet willing to sacrifice things in our lives. She became the goddess of the mysteries, receiving the dead for rebirth. She became the queen of the underworld and a wife and a mother. Now, Pluto, we know him as the creative destroyer. And I've got here Tom Ellis as he plays the role Lucifer in Netflix. Lucifer is really Pluto, which is Hades, going back. That symbolism is all connected. In this show, just quickly, the devil comes up from the underworld because he's bored and he starts solving mysteries. But he says a key line, either of the red herring or of the murderer in the story. What do you truly desire? Now, it'll either be someone who wanted to kill someone or someone who wants to raise bunnies or something, whatever they truly desire. What is inside in their hearts, in the core of their souls? What do they need to become to transform to be their best selves? And that's what he's done here. He's transformed Ceres, he's transformed his wife, but he's transformed himself, showing us that, you know, we do need a certain death in our lives to be reborn, like a phoenix, to be regenerated in the best version out of ourselves. For him, he transformed himself into a husband. The amazing Demeter George says in her book, Asteroid Goddesses, we need asteroids as the traditional planets simply do not and cannot fully explain the issues which are emerging, simply because they are new. That's right, they are new in our times. Now, oddly enough, my mother's name is Demeter, and I would say to things when come up, I'm like, oh my goodness, did you know that this happened? This is new. Now, she is 1 Uranus return in age, so she's a war baby, and she said those themes have always existed. It's just that our times are changing. And so these themes, even though they carry on, they're new in our times. And the goddesses are key to us in understanding them. I've also got this graphic from Demeter's book, which is a fantastic depiction of the 4 major asteroids, the goddesses, and where they fall in our charts. We have Vesta. Hopefully you can see my cursor, Vesta on the ascendant. We have Pallas Athena, that the creativity that sprouts from Zeus's head. And she's about masculine femininity and feminine masculinity. I should go back to say Vesta's about the self. Juno's about ourselves, but with others, with partnership. And Ceres, down in the underworld, in the bottom of our chart, on the IC, bringing our goddesses, our past, our familial history in, going into the base of our souls for our transformation. It's amazing how these things match up. Now, before we go into the astrology deeper, I want to look at a little bit of the astronomy of Ceres. She was a dwarf planet discovered in 1801, and she's a third the size of all the asteroid bodies in mass. So she's quite big for an asteroid, but she's a 20th size of our moon and a 14th size, a 20th size of our moon and a 14th the size of Pluto. Her composition is about 25% of water, so there's that sort of nourishment symbolism. And I found it really fascinating, going back to my chemistry roots. So magnesium sulfate is her major salt compared to sodium chloride on Earth, which is our table salt here. And magnesium sulfate is Epsom salts, and we use Epsom salts. I'm not sure if you can still do that in the United States. I think it might have been banned, not sure. But in Australia, you can use magnesium sulfate salts, Epsom salts, to ground yourself in a salt bath. And I've just thought that correlation, I just loved it. Thought I'd share that. Okay, get to the good stuff. So, Ceres, the eternal mother, nurturer, and caregiver. And on that point, happy Mother's Day to all mothers, nurturers, and caregivers. She's so apt. And to be honest, I did not choose the date based on this. I had no idea it was Mother's Day. It just, as we said, the astrology lined up. It was actually the best day with school drop-offs and everything. So, and thank you to Oprah for changing the time for this for me. I really appreciate it. Okay, so the symbol is the sickle, which we can see here and is the gift of agriculture. Now, her orb that you would use with asteroids, Lee Lehman states, I think that's the only thing I have found to date. Please let me know if you know of any other information in the literature, of about 3 degrees, which is really great. Because we don't have, astrological data as much as we have from ancient times from the sun to Saturn, let's stick it for 1 to 2 degrees for the next 1,000 years till we have more. But you will see, as I'll show you some charts later on, that you can open the orb up because she sticks around in a stellium going, ooh, there's more to this story. You've got to include me, and you will feel it when you give an astrological interpretation. But I'll show you more about that later on. She takes about 5 years to go around a chart and 2 to 3 months. She spends 2 to 3 months per sign. Her associated rulerships are through Cancer, the Taurus Scorpio polarity, and Virgo. And her polarities are compassion versus anger. And by this we mean when you understand your series, it will bring up some anger. You'll be like, oh, why did this happen? Why is this person acting like this towards me? But understanding where these things come to you from or why a person acted that way towards you, and having compassion for them and starting a healing process, which I'll show you as we go on. Now, the asteroids themselves do not have their own energies like planets do. They have a blending. And Ceres's blending is that of the moon, Venus, her daughter, and Pluto, her son. So that's why I went through the whole myth and her family, because she really is a blending of her whole family. So when we look to Ceres, she is all about feeding yourself, especially from early in life, and the love that you received from your mother, nurturer, or caregiver. However, if that love was distorted, withheld, or came with conditions, there's some potential damage caused there, and working through that as we go through our lives. She's about the need to be emotionally fed, because if we're not emotionally fed, we starve. We feel a hole in our hearts. We feel empty. If you're lucky to be loved unconditionally in your life, you will have a very healthy expression of Ceres from an early age. If not, she will color the lens that you will see caring and love as an adult. When we start examining Ceres and through our Ceres transits, we start to transform. She's very Chiron-like, except with Chiron, you need to heal others to heal yourself. With Ceres, you've got to start the work within you to bring it to others. And it can be very, very powerful. So let's go through Ceres through her associated rulerships to understand her more. Through the rulership of Cancer, and she's in Cancer right now, it's all about food, and nourishment on a physical level, love and support emotionally, guidance and wisdom spiritually. Food-wise, she can rule eating disorders. She can also rule over how you use food in your life. Do you use it as a way for punishment or for seeking love? But having a healthy approach to food is also a very positive Ceres expression. She's also about letting go. I'll use a very binary example of a mother and son, and the son getting married, and the mother letting the child go to go and live their lives. Is it that attachment, letting go? It was Goldie Hawn. I saw her in an interview, and she said, children are given to us. They're lent to us by God, Goddess, the universe, to guide them. They're not ours. That's a very Ceres thing, I think, and letting go. She's also about the mother and daughter-in-law jealousy. How is that navigated? Which the loves, there's no competition. It's two completely different things. She can also symbolize or resemble child abuse, custody battles, emptiness syndrome, and single parenting. Through the Taurus Scorpio axis, this is all about lessons of attachment, separation, death and dying, sharing, and renewal. Now, the moon is exalted in Taurus, so it's like getting that lunar energy and, it coming down into the earth and feeding us through the darkness. So, very scorpionic things eventually. She's about parenting issues of either being overprotective or not allowing the children to grow, and any anxieties a parent may feel and pass on to their children. She's about grief, control, and anger. And she's also about, things, with renewal of life, the death passage and blood mysteries. With the death passage, pretty much it's what her daughter Persephone symbolizes in guiding the souls and getting them through the process to be reborn again. But with the blood mysteries, that's more to do with the Eleusinian rites. Now, no one knows what went on in those Eleusinian rites. If you participated in those in ancient times and told people outside of the order, you were executed. You weren't supposed to share it. But one thing we do know is that people that went through those rites were transformed. They were reborn again. So very much it goes along with the themes that we've been talking about so far. Through the Virgo axis, she's about productivity and efficiency, and as well as the type of work that people could be involved in. It could be something that sustains life, cares for others, either in the service industry or health industry, or caring work. So I hope you know where your Ceres is in your chart by house and sign. The sign can indicate how you were mothered or what you needed to be nurtured in your life. And if you didn't have that, what imbalances could result. The house placement can indicate either a potential of vocation, the urge of where you need to be nourished, and the need for self-love. So let's go through each sign. I'm just checking the time. Yeah, we're tracking all right for time, I hope. So if you've got Ceres in Aries or in the first house, it's about being given independence, and you nurture others by giving that independence and teaching people to become independent. That really just makes you thrive. And they feel loved when they see people. If you've taught people how to be independent and they take that on and it's like, a mother bird pushing a baby bird out of the nest and the little thing going, and then taking off. Oh my gosh, that's very Ceres in Aries. You love that. However, if the mother pushes the baby bird before it's ready, we're going to get some issues there. That independence will not come about easily. So it's a timing thing for this placement. Now, our new monarch, King Charles III, has Ceres in Leo, but in the first house. It's conjunct, so we've got about 3 degrees there with Pluto. When Pluto transited after his birth and was conjunct Ceres, his mother became Queen of England. Bam, that changed everything for him. His mother wasn't always there. He described his parents as being physically and emotionally distant, probably from, memory kicks in when you're about 3 or 4 years old. So we don't know. There might have been that connection early in his life, but once his mother became queen, things would have changed. His Ceres makes a lovely trine to Mars in Sagittarius in the 5th house. It makes a sextile, especially Pluto makes a sextile to Venus and Libra down here, and Persephone, this is this really cool like lowercase g glyph, right next to her, right there in the 4th house. We've got a big story there. I mean, I could talk about these charts forever, but we've got, in interests of time. If you've got Ceres in Taurus or the 2nd house, it's about physical substance, being cuddled, that just knowing that you're taken care of, that you can help your loved ones, but especially yourself, put a roof over your head, have food in the fridge, clothes on your back, and just be taken care of materially. They will feel loved by pampering themselves and being able to provide for themselves. If there is any lack of that, it could either lead to hoarding, so buying things so you can feel like you have that protection, or, being overly obsessed and attached to those things to feel that protection as well. If, like the amazing Robert De Niro, you've got Ceres in Gemini or the 3rd house, it's about education and talking and listening and exchanging ideas with other people. They will feel loved when they teach and feel smart. I saw an interview with Robert De Niro. I think you would have seen it on the Graham Norton show. I think Anne Hathaway and what's his name? Tom Hiddleston was there. And everyone's talking around, but Robert's just sitting there. He just sits there and he listens and he absorbs. He would love that. And he's one of those people that, may not talk. I mean, this is the impression I get, may not talk much, but when he does, says something golden and just loves exchanging those smart ideas. If there was any imbalance there could be some learning difficulties like dyslexia, or they'll try to act smart to compensate for what they don't feel they have. If, like the late Princess Diana, you have Ceres in Cancer or in the 4th house, it's about having that nurturance and bond with their mother and feeling loved. They give nurturance from a very early age, going into caring roles, and they'll feel loved with, honoring their emotions. And it's very Princess Diana. One of the key things in her life was to make people honor their emotions. Any imbalance from a very young age could result in either emotional dependency or neediness. Now, Princess Diana's chart is amazing. She has Ceres conjunct Vesta in the 4th house in Taurus. So very much about the home, hearth in the home, and that's what she wanted, a loving home. Her parents separated when she was quite young. Her mother remarried quickly, and she was living with her mother. But when her father remarried when she was about 15, he won the custody battle and was forced to live with her stepmother. Apparently they had a turbulent beginning to the relationship with her stepmother was quite turbulent, but they became close later in Diana's life. Now, the really cool thing with this Ceres in the 4th house is that it makes a kite formation with her sun in Cancer in the 7th house. It's sextile there. Sextile Persephone in the 2nd house in Pisces, and opposes Neptune in Scorpio in the 10th house. It's like, mic drop, out we go. It's amazing. I mean, it pretty much encompasses part of her story from what we know. She really wanted a stable, loving home. She gave up a lot of her self-esteem. That's very Persephone in Pisces there, but for something else, for something in the collective. And you know what? Marrying into the royal family, she may have thought, wow, I would have got the secure family that I craved. But Neptune in Scorpio. It was more than she bargained for. Oh, we could go on for hours for this one. I'll keep going. Now, Ceres in Leo, or the fifth house, it's about self-expression and creativity from a very young age, but the parents supporting this creativity, because later on in life, they will support others through play and teaching and get whatever creativity is for a person out into the world. And they'll take pride in that. Not supporting that early in life can lead to, like a lion, or an ego. Their ego will get decimated. They'll reject themselves and lack self-confidence. My son has this placement in the 12th house. I know, my gosh, what did he reincarnate with? But from a very young age, he would come to me with his artwork going, Mama, what do you think? And I'm like, it's gorgeous. Keep doing that. It's amazing. He's 6 years old now, and he's like, really? Is it really that good? And I'm like, yeah, for your, creativity. He's starting to, he's got that, the ego is coming up again. But I know, because I know of this placement, it nourishes his soul to encourage him with his creativity. I've got Nicole Kidman here. She is what I call a Ceres success story. She has Ceres in Leo in the 9th house with a wide conjunction with Jupiter right next door there. And she started ballet from a very young age. Her parents supported her in ballet. They supported her through the theatre, through primary and her high school years. And look at her now. Her Ceres makes a outer sign trine with Chiron in Pisces in the 5th house. To me, that symbolizes, creativity heals her. She heals herself, she heals others, and really gets into some really deep things through her movies, especially the things that she's been doing in lately. She's taken that confidence to another level, which is amazing. If you have Ceres in Virgo or in the 6th house, it's about being of service and learning that from the mother, but there is a need for perfection there. They would give nurturance to others by applying skills of being of service, and this again would become from a strong ethic from their parents, but there would also be a very strong feeling of nurturance through nutrition and health. And you'll see this, Alicia Silverstone has this very same placement, and she really promotes veganism through that. It helps her and it helps a lot of people. She'll feel loved by, everything that they've learned, applying that to others. However, the imbalance here would come if the parents are quite critical. And that's where it would need to a feeling of perfectionism. The late Karen Carpenter has Ceres in the 6th house in Sagittarius. If you don't know who Karen Carpenter is, she was one half of the Carpenters from the 70s, a brother-sister band. Now, her brother was, put out there, to get to learn the piano, and she was given the glockenspiel. And she's like, really? Glockenspiel, piano? I'm learning the drums. And she has the voice of an angel. Google her later on YouTube. You can't get the songs out of her head. It's just beautiful. Now, Ceres there is conjunct Hygeia in Sagittarius, a very, very wide stellium conjunction there with Chiron. Makes a trine with Pluto, easy opposition with Jupiter Jupiter and Mercury in the 9th house. You see, it's very wide, but if she was alive today and we're in a consultation, we'd start talking about these themes. I would really much bring it in. For her, it's, getting her voice out into the world. But with all the pressure that she would have received in being in the public eye, she might have used food as punishment, and she was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa and unfortunately died from a heart attack as a complication. So there's a very deep story there across that axis. If you have Ceres in Libra or in the 7th house, it really is all about relationship, working with others, but on an even keel. And they give nurturance by taking care of their partner, and their partner in return equally taking care of them back. One could be a CEO in the organization, the other one could be in the mailroom or the janitor. But when they close the door at work, go home, they're equal. Doesn't matter who they are in life, their souls are equal with this placement. And having equality in all their relationships, no matter what. If there is any imbalance, unfortunately with this placement, they would actually put that aside just to feel accepted and be in a relationship. So it's very important for someone with this placement to be true to themselves and find someone who is their equal. If you have Ceres in Scorpio or in the 8th house, it's about being deeply bonded with others, with the mother, or their carer, and they'll give nurturance by, honoring their emotional commitments and transforming people in lives that probably don't even know that they've got this very plutonic role of transforming or healing others. They will feel loved by becoming into life in everything they do through love, avoiding any negativity if they can, because if they do, that's where the imbalance comes, and it's like a scorpionic tail coming in and stinging them in the heart, really down into their soul. So they've got to be really careful with that. But they also have a lot of issues around loss and death in their lives and being really comfortable with it. I have Ceres in Scorpio in the 7th house. I know there's another story there. I'm very comfortable around death. I'm the person who at a funeral will go to the next of kin and say, "How are you?" "Oh, I'm fine," they'll say. "No, really, how are you?" And they'll just, lash out. Well, not lash out, but open up, and it's all about that and healing by just getting the emotions out there. The late Alfred Hitchcock has Ceres in Scorpio with a wide stellium there with Jupiter and the moon. And in the 8th house. Can't make this up. Now, Alfred was sent to a police station as a child with a note from his father that said, "Naughty boys go to jail." And he stayed overnight in jail. He was just a kid, and that traumatized him. And he had all these other traumas as a child that you can kind of see comes out in his work and somehow heals him in getting out there. If you haven't seen any of his movies, just don't watch them when it's dark. Watch them in daylight, because they really get into your head, into that psyche. It's a very scorpionic thing in there. But perhaps for him, that's a way of processing these fears for him in life. If you have Ceres in Sagittarius or in the 9th house, it's about expanding your horizons. That feeds you. It's about travel, knowledge, and freedom, and teaching others, being that free, developing philosophies. And, for someone in this placement, you need to have a goal in life, no matter what it is for you that nurtures your soul. Otherwise, you're just pretty much lost. So having an end goal, whatever that may be, and that can change, is really important. If you have Ceres in Capricorn or in the 10th house, it's about achievement and doing things right, very Saturnian, being very responsible and teaching other people these responsibilities and giving them the tools to succeed in the world. They will feel loved when they achieve things. So they might set a goal for themselves, achieve it, and it's like, "Oh, I did it," but it really nourishes their soul. Now, with this placement, you may find the imbalance in that their love will be received from their parents conditionally. So as I say, for this placement, you don't get the unconditional love and the hugs and the kisses or anything like that. But, "Oh, you did well in school. Well done. You got an A. Yay." Next day they come home with a D. "What's wrong with you?" Whack, whack. Oh, sorry, that's all right. But, really going at it at their kid. And it's like, "Oh, come on, he probably just doesn't understand something and he didn't pass the test." Seeing beyond that. So for this person, they'd be like, "Oh, I got an A. I'm going to get that attention." And, later on in life, they're like, achievements, achievements, achievements to get that recognition that they did not get as a child. And this is very important because right now we have Ceres in Capricorn, which I'll go over in a few slides. If you have Ceres in Aquarius or in the 11th house, I should just put a picture of David Bowie there and just walk away. It's very David Bowie. But with this placement, it's about being true to yourself and being recognized by those who care for you that you are who you are, loving you for who you are. And they pass that on to people in their lives. By following your true path and marching to the beat of your own drum, that nurtures you. and teaching other people that as well. But with someone with this placement, they do need the guidance so they don't sort of stray off that and be true to themselves. And finally, if you have Ceres in Pisces or in the 12th house, it's about compassion. And Shirley Temple Black, a child star from the 1930s, united people, and brought them together through a very difficult time in our history through her movies. But having this placement, it's beyond. It's very Piscean. It's about uniting others through empathy and serving selflessly. Now, after her career waned, she became a diplomat in the United States. I mean, how Ceres in Pisces is that? She even ended up advising the president. I forgot the position, what it was called, but it was a senior advisory role in the diplomatic corps there. And to understand this placement, I'll give you a personal example. Both my husband and daughter have Ceres in Pisces. And for my husband, he would give things away at times. I'm like, what are you doing that for? And he says, don't worry, it will come back. And he's just starting to get into all of this. And it does come back. He has this innate understanding of how the universe provides. My little girl, she's only 3.5. I was having a pity party one day. Things were just going wrong. You just have one of those Mother's Days where everything goes wrong. And I was in my bedroom and I could hear her playing in the living room. And I heard her say, Mama. She ran all the way to the bedroom, gave me this big hug, and did not let go until my heart felt better. She just knew. So fostering, for me as a mother, fostering that empathy is something that will nurture her. Otherwise, she could have feelings of helplessness and powerlessness growing up. So I hope that helps with your placements or gives you a better understanding. Let's look just quickly at Ceres in transit and what it can show us in our charts. Now, we've got Hugh Jackman and Deborah Lee Furness. Hugh has Ceres in Scorpio, conjunct Neptune in the 10th house. You see there's a lovely Scorpio stellium there. It's 7 degrees wide. I would first look at Neptune if I was in consultation with Hugh and then slowly open up the story to find out more and talk about it. But with Hugh's story as well, his parents divorced when he was young, and his mother took his sisters to live to the UK and left Hugh back in Sydney with his father. That would have created a huge wound in saying, why not me? Why didn't you take me? Why did you leave me back in Sydney? And who knows, he might have, he burst onto the scene. He's a triple threat. He's absolutely talented. Was he trying to get his mother's attention up there in the 10th house? Look at me, Mum, look at me. Could it be? With his marriage to Deborah Lee Furness, I remember they met on the set of Corelli. It was a big cop show in the mid-90s here in Australia. And I mean, he's gorgeous. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, Hugh Jackman. And when they announced their engagement and marriage, I was like, oh, we missed out. But why did these two get together? They've got this amazing synastry. Ceres and Persephone, 5 degrees apart in Capricorn. These fall in Deborah's 11th house, incidentally, but they're in Hugh's 12th house. And after 27 years of marriage, they announced their separation late last year. And at the time, Pluto was conjunct her Ceres. Transiting Ceres had moved into Scorpio, so eventually Hugh was coming up to his Scorpio return. But at the time, it was right on Deborah's Mars. And we also have Deborah's Saturn in Scorpio on his Ceres. So lots of lessons. There's a lot there. Now, I've been going through these charts and I'm pretty much speculating, but it's only when you sit down with a client and start talking and in consultation and really listening to your client that you will really understand their Ceres, and it'll help them on their Ceres journey. And finally, Ceres is going retrograde in 3 days. She's currently in Capricorn. She will go retrograde from 16th of May to the 27th of August, and then will go direct in Capricorn before moving into Aquarius later in the year. She'll make a sextile with Neptune and Uranus. And, I was talking all about Ceres in Capricorn because for us, if it hasn't come up already, it will definitely come up in the retrograde, where we will question the nurturance we received growing up. Were there conditions attached? Are the things that drive us, is there something behind that? Do we have a need to get acceptance from others just to achieve something? And it might be something you don't really want to achieve. It's very deep stuff, because once we, ask ourselves these questions, we will discover how we nurture ourselves. Now, going through this, you might discover some things about yourself and start kicking yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. You didn't know any better. None of us do. I mean, when we come out of our mother, doesn't matter how we come to our mother, we don't have to be born to them. We just come to them, the souls connect in lives. We don't come with a manual. The only manual we come with is our birth chart. So if you have some astrological knowledge, look at your kid's birth chart and look at where their Ceres falls. Don't be hard on yourself. You didn't know if you didn't know, but that will hold the clue. So in summary, Ceres, like Chiron, comes with a wound in our lives that can only be healed with compassion and self-acceptance and love for ourselves. Because once you do that, you start healing. Like Ceres, she started healing once she realized she had to let go of her daughter. The amazing Stephen Forrest says there's a rite of passage that must be navigated with Ceres, because when you go through a Ceres transformation, you indeed cleanse your soul. I want to thank you for your time and for listening to me. I hope I didn't go too fast and you understood my accent. If you want to find out more, these are my links. And if you want to read more about asteroids, we've got some amazing books out there that I refer to during this time. And thank you to Oprah for making this, for the opportunity and making this Sydney time friendly. So I'll stop sharing there.
Thank you so much, Georgina. That was amazing. There was
Thank you.
Lots of enthusiastic remarks in the comments. And yeah, there's just a few questions in our final minute. So the first one is, what orb would you allow for the aspects between asteroids?
Yeah, so because we don't know too much, keep it as tight as possible, Yana. So if you see Ceres on her own, making it an aspect, and usually she'll make an aspect to Persephone and Pluto, about 95% of the time, which I find fascinating. Keep it really tight. Keep it tight in a stellium as well, but listen to your intuition, because you will find you might open it up to 5 degrees at the most. But when talking with a client, you'll see that if she's part of a stellium, she will incorporate that whole stellium as well. I hope that helps.
Fantastic. Thank you. And then someone asked if you use Ceres in synastry. They noted it could be extremely helpful.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I had a client recently with a synastry reading, and it just came up in the conversation, and we found out that a lot of things that they were experiencing in their life was very much linked to their parents' story. And they had Ceres in Aries, and their mother was pushed, taken out of school and pushed to work very early in life. They were, barely a teenager, and that filtered on to their lives and how they feel about their partner in their relationship, like certain things like insecurities that were coming up. So definitely have a look at Ceres in a synastry chart and have that conversation. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Someone just asked if you could put the slide with the links back up really briefly.
Absolutely.
I know that folks use Ceres in astrocartography and things like that. So folks are just asking also if the slides will be available. So we just make the link to the recording available, and all OPA members will get that sent to them directly. And for everyone else, it will go up on YouTube eventually. And there's Georgina's information, and you can reach her at, am I saying your last name right? Sierra?
Yeah, like the Sierras, the mountains.
Yeah, beautiful. Georgina, Sierra, astrology.com. Do you have any events or anything coming up that you wanted to let folks know about?
I have a presentation about Vesta coming up on the 3rd of July at the Sydney Astrological Research Society here in Sydney. So if you're in Sydney, feel free to come along at that. And we're also having that available as Zoom. So wherever you are in the world, you can click in on that. We'll talk about Vesta.
Wonderful. And then just one more question. Do you notice anything about Ceres contacts with the nodes?
I haven't seen anything to date, to be honest. But you know what? I would not ignore it, especially if you see it in the South Node. South Node, North Node. So the South Node, that would be coming in with something from a past life, or definitely things that were going on early in their life. But also look at where, if Ceres is in the North Node, you know, they might have this, it doesn't feel right, they're very uncomfortable, but that's the energy they need to integrate into this lifetime for their healing. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again. And we
Oh,
hope that
thank
you will,
you.
yeah, folks should get in touch, and we hope that everyone will join us for the upcoming OPA events. And Mercury Hour will be back in July. But before then, if folks are going to Norwalk, we are going to have a big party on Friday night. So we hope you will join us in K Suite, who will be hosting the festivities. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you all soon.